Hello, podcast listener. Welcome to the Flophouse Podcast. Usually on the Flophouse Podcast, we watch a bad movie, or as Dan likes to say, a movie that has been a critical or financial failure because he feels bad for the movies, and we talk about it. But this is a miniature episode, what we call a Flophouse Mini, where instead we will be doing something different, still movie-related, but something a little different. My name is, of course, Elliot Kalin. Today I'm joined by my... Yeah?
Oh, sorry. Using my usual cue. I'm Dan McCoy, loving this gentle energy you're bringing.
Yes. And we're also joined by Stuart Wellington.
And I am Stuart Wellington.
Yes. But today we also have another guest.
We did it perfectly.
Yes, we did it flawlessly. You can really tell we've been doing this for almost 20 years. Today we're also joined by another guest, or in this case, perhaps a guest host, you might say in a way, because he's going to help lead us through a conversation about an interesting topic. His name, of course, is Alonso Duralde. You probably know him as the chief film critic for The Film Verdict. Perhaps you know him as co-host of the podcast Maximum Film and also Linoleum Knife being one of my favorite podcasts. He's author of the books Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas and also Hollywood Pride, among others. And he's here to talk to us today. Alonso, are there any credits that I have not mentioned that you'd like me to mention in this voice?
Well, Elliot, I also co-host a show called Breakfast All Day with Chrissy Lemire on YouTube, and I'm a regular contributor to the Deck the Hallmark podcast. And I had no idea we were doing ASMR today, but I'm here for all the bedtime calm vibes.
That's right. That's what this mini is all about, is bedtime calm vibes.
Bedtime calm vibes, and then Stuart honking, blowing his nose. I'm sure Alex will cut it out.
Leave that in, Alex. Leave in Stuart's human frailty, his weakness.
Yeah. Now, I don't want people to think that I'm some kind of inhuman, godlike being who cannot get ill.
No.
I am recovering from strep throat currently, and it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that you were actually sick when I started making fun of you. But
Now, we have there's a specific topic that Alonso was going to talk about today. But before we started recording, Alonso broke the news to us that he attended one of the screenings of After Last Season, whatever that movie is called, that we did recently. And so I do tell our listeners a little bit about what the experience was like. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything your guest said about the trailer being on Apple Trailers and everybody thinking that it was viral marketing for Where the Wild Things Are, absolutely true. I remember when that happened. And I just remember seeing that trailer thinking, okay. And I have a couple of people that are friends of mine who see just about everything that opens. And every so often, they will sound the alarm. For a movie like, say, I don't know if y'all have seen Standing Ovation.
No, I don't know that one.
The teen musical, or Dangerous Men, or, they were early on The Birdemic and The Room. Like, when they tell you, drop everything and go see this movie, you listen. And so After Last Season opened in 4 markets for 1 week only. One of those markets is Lancaster, California, which is a good hour from where I live. It's way up, like you're heading towards like Bakersfield, I guess. But I had been told you have to go see After Last Season. So I went with 2 friends. And we've never forgotten it. And I actually own a DVD that was a brief moment where the mysterious Mark Region was selling them on his website. And one of the friends who went with me to that screening got it for me. So I still have it in my collection. It is a prized possession. So when I saw y'all were doing an After Last Season episode, my head exploded.
Yeah, I feel like we're so late to the train on that one. We're so there's this whole. Whenever I hear about one of those, and I'm like, oh, how did I not know about this? But then I feel a little bit better about it.
It's due for a revival, I think. I think enough time has elapsed. Maybe the people who knew forgot, and so now you're there to sort of beat the drum again to let people know
all right.
This is
that makes me feel better. Yeah, and it's in the public domain by now, right? Probably. Yeah.
Heaven only knows with the crackpot history of this movie and how much it did or didn't cost.
I also feel like a lot of these like really like legendary bad movies are the stuff that we would cover during Small Vember, and thus like. It's like once a year we would get around to it. Unfortunately, our bread and butter has become mediocre Hollywood movies that
those
just
are
sort
fun
of
too.
deadening.
but yeah, there's something about these movies where it's not even just that the movie is so bizarre, but the making of it is so shadowy. Where did they get their money, and who, how was this actually edited and put into theaters? Because when you get to stuff like The Room or Ben and Arthur, you're just like, the origin story is as weird as the film itself.
But it's also fun, and the answer everyone always goes to is like, "Oh, it must have been a money laundering operation." It's like there's easier ways to launder money than to
Open a
make
car
and release
wash.
a film. Yeah. But Alonso, the original
Yeah, that
intention
works
was,
out. Usually that works out.
If Breaking Bad is any indication, yes,
Yeah,
car
that's
wash
great.
is the way to go.
Yeah. Alonso, you weren't here originally to talk about after last season, although
No,
when you
sorry.
texted me this morning a picture of your ticket stub from seeing it, I was like, I got to hear more. Yeah. But you were here because it is June, and
Yes.
June is Pride Month,
Just
right?
because it's June.
June.
Yeah. And so, Alonso, you wanted to have us talk about a little bit about kind of like the question was, I believe, like when was the first time that we remember seeing kind of like queer representation on film?
Yes.
Right. That was the question that you had asked us originally.
Yeah, this is a conversation I've had with a lot of queer people because I think, we were always sort of on the lookout for it. And it's sort of, it felt like a signal from the world like, oh, wow, maybe there's this, there's a community out there for me. Or maybe, there's I'm not alone in the world. Although for people like my age, it was more often than not, oh my God, I'm not that, And so as people who are equally versed in your Solarises and your bikinis car wash, I thought it would be really interesting to hear what y'all's take on when did you start sort of realizing these characters existed, in the world and in movies, and did it color your judgment of what a queer person was based on, oh, are they all like that? Or did you immediately know, wait, that's gross? I mean, it depends. Like, I'll tell you mine.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I really remember like perceiving a queer character in a movie, and I'm sure as a kid I had seen like old screwball comedies with Franklin Pangborn or whatever,
Yes,
and I knew
yeah.
the sort of the sissy and the
You see
persnickety,
Eric Blore in the Fred Astaire movies, and you're like,
Exactly,
yeah, here's a
yes,
guy
the-
who's exactly.
the sort of uptight and fussy and whatever. But once I hit puberty and I was looking at movies in a different way, do you guys know the 1981 sort of Broadway sort of slasher movie, The Fan?
No, I don't know that. one.
I'm aware that it exists.
Okay, so it was based on a novel that was apparently quite successful, and it was an epistolary novel. Like the whole thing is letters and faxes and whatever else. But the premise here is basically that Lauren Bacall is a big Broadway star.
I buy it. I believe it.
Yes, well, weirdly, she was at that point. Like, she actually did win a Tony or two, which is bizarre because lady cannot sing. And you see that in The Fan where she has a couple of big numbers that are really embarrassing.
There's more, Alonso. Maybe this is me feeling stereotypical about queer people. There's more to Broadway than just musicals. There's straight drama. They don't always
Absolutely.
sing.
But she did musicals. That's
Oh, okay.
the thing.
Well, then that's a
I'm
different
not
thing, yeah.
judging her based on a thing she wasn't doing. She actually was in like Woman of the Year and
Oh,
stuff.
okay, it wasn't
So
like a
in the-
revival of Death of a Salesman or something.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Like there are not enough tunes in Long Day's Journey in the Night.
There should be a musical version of Long Day's Journey into Night. That would be great.
Boozies. Anyway, so she's a big Broadway musical star, and she has a stalker played by a pre-Terminator Michael Biehn. And the whole time he's sending her
Mr.
these
Bean
letters that are increasingly like obsessive and like sexual. And the movie never comes out and says that he's gay, but I think we're sort of meant to pick up on that because he is stalking a woman of Broadway. Nonetheless, there is a part where the police are closing in on him and he has to fake his own death. So he goes to a gay bar, picks up a guy who is his general like size and, body type. They go to a rooftop. His pickup initiates off-screen oral sex on Michael Biehn. Michael Biehn reaches for a straight razor encased in a pink plastic sheath, by the way, slits the guy's throat, sets him on fire, leaves a suicide note to sort of make the police think that he has killed himself and I guess immolated
I was
himself.
going
or
to say,
whatever.
once he cut his own throat, he then lit himself on fire, I guess.
Yeah, I guess he mentioned Savonarola once or twice in the suicide note, perhaps. Anyway, so that was the first time I'd ever seen two men having sex in a movie. And they didn't finish because one of them got his throat slit by the other one. And I was like, okay, I'm not. That movie alone, I think, kept me in the closet for an extra 3 years, probably.
Oh.
So that stuck with me, and so that's like a biggie. And the 80s were rife with these kind of really terrible, like Demi Moore's next door neighbor in St. Elmo's Fire with the strawberry perched on the lip of his margarita, or I mean, countless other movies, and also I think the '80s was prime time for like the hero gets to say faggot and no one cares, and it's funny. So this is, I'm older than you guys, but these are the movies of your youth. These are the films that made you. So I would love to hear like your recollections of like, oh yeah, there was this guy and that lady, and maybe they were good, maybe they were terrible, but tell me.
The first one that comes to mind for me is which police academy was it where they go to a gay bar?
All of them.
Yeah. And I feel like
they always wind up at the Blue Oyster, which is somehow a bar where leather dudes dance the tango. That's what happens at a leather bar.
And I think
it's
that's
always
the thing.
leather night. Yeah.
There was such a when we were kids, there was I think that was probably something like that is probably the first one for me also. It's something where like it's a comedy or an action comedy, and there's a character in it who is either very swishy or is a leather guy or both. And there was this, I feel like growing up, there was this understanding gay men are all incredibly effeminate, but they're also into leather and tough daddy stuff. And the idea that not all gay people are into leather and not all leather people are gay was such a like it just didn't it just was conflated into like a general other. And I think I'm trying to think what the specific one was, but I feel like there were so many. What's the is it Bronson Pinchot in the Beverly Hills Cop movies? Who's like
Surge?
Surge, the kind of mincing. But
yes.
I'll tell you, he actually I think is more in the tradition of the old screwball sissy characters in that he is self-contained, and you meet him on his terms. He is not going to meet you on yours.
That's true. But I feel like that's maybe one of the first ones I remember seeing where it's like oh, this guy is being clearly there's a lack of like at the very least kind of macho quality, which I had started like or like a traditional, I don't know, like the hero of the movie masculinity.
Right,
like
Butch.
Butch. But then but I feel like also when I was growing up, because I'm a little bit younger than you, Alonso, it was during like what I really remember is kind of like the late 80s, early 90s when suddenly like the idea of queerness or homosexuality was now a big topic of conversation nationally in a way that I think it had been more of an undercurrent before. And so like it felt like, I remember growing up, I was like, it felt like, did we just discover gay people? Like, is this like a new thing that happened?
Well,
and then you go back and watch old movies and you're like, oh no, it's, this is something that has always been around and aware of. The same way that like you watch 30s movies and you're like, wait a minute, they had sex back then? And the people making the movie like knew that sex existed,
Well, I mean, the late 80s, early 90s is where like AIDS was happening.
Yeah,
and
I think that must have been it.
So yeah, we were a topic of conversation as a problem, as either objects of pity or like hide your children, they're coming to, give you their cooties.
But I remember that started to edge into like the you know what, it's okay. You know what, like the
very special episode of the sitcom where somebody could show you that like, guys, they're just like you and me.
But but I feel like it was like the like we showed the first Bill and Ted movie to my older son, and he really enjoyed it. But the part where there's just like that one moment where they're using the F word with each other, and I'm like, oh, I don't like this. Like,
well, and to their credit, both Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves were like, you know what, we were young and dumb, and like the apology tour is always fascinating. Like they did one, the Beastie Boys, I think were they kind of like looking back at their early stuff. So I'm
Eddie
all
Murphy.
for. Eddie Murphy, because I was saying, because Beverly Hills Cop does give you Eddie Murphy doing his little mincy, limp wrist thing and talking about having, herpes simplex 10 or whatever. And it's like,
well, because I feel like that was the era when it was like Eddie Murphy and like, or seeing Robin Williams doing like his kind of mincing voice, his kind of like pre Birdcage, when it's not, this is a character I'm playing, but this is just like a voice I'm doing in a routine, and everyone and the joke is, this is hilarious that I'm doing this voice or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to parse all of the Robin Williams stuff, but I mean, I think he had at least sort of a San Francisco background, and I think kind of was mining that more for the comedy of the outrageousness than the like, look at this silly homo,
Yeah, I guess that's probably true. But I think in some ways, when looking back on it, I didn't realize at the time, but I think the first character, like the first queer character I may have seen might have been, now that I assume that Styles, the character from Teen Wolf, the best friend, I believe is a closeted character. And he has a moment where he says that where he says he's not as a joke. But I'm like, there's no way this character's not in love with Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, the people who say it the loudest sometimes, especially when you're a teenager.
I remember that. So when I was a kid, I really loved the movie Zorro the Gay Blade.
Oh, me too.
because the thing was, like, I just loved Zorro. I love the character of Zorro, and Zorro the Gay Blade is this movie that I don't know at all how I would react to now. I haven't seen it since then, but like, he had a twin brother who was forced to take over the mantle of Zorro. His twin brother Bunny
Wigglesworth.
who was very effeminate. But like, as a kid watching this movie, loving Zorro and not knowing anything about gay people, I'm just like, oh, this is his funny twin. Like, there's like none of it like registered to me as like, I think, a gay stereotype, even though it's in the title. I'm just like, oh, this is a fun adventure movie with jokes.
This big goosey guy. No, but here's the thing. I think, like, for me, and you ask 20 gay people, you'll get different answers on this. I love Zorro the Gay Blade, and what I think is great is that he is never the butt of the joke, at least in terms of, yes, we're meant to laugh at his wild, outrageous sense of fashion. The fact that he like turns these Zorro outfits into these like fringed, kind of like crazy things. But he is as effective with the bullwhip as Zorro is with the sword, and he wins. He wins the day. He is always defeating and shaming the bad guys in the way that Zorro would. And so weirdly, it's this kind of like, yeah, we're meant to laugh at how campy and outrageous and over the top you are, but you are also a Zorro level superhero,
Yeah. No, I think you're reminding me, like, I also think that, like, I loved Indiana Jones so much that I thought whips were cool. So I'm like, this cool guy has a whip. And
it was a brief period when whips were like the cool weapon of choice, even though they're maybe the hardest thing in the world to use. Like, they're
talk about you'll
difficult.
Put an eye out.
Yeah.
But I can't believe we haven't talked about C-3PO, by the way, the original gay robot.
Thank you.
Well,
he was a real role model for me.
They did something recently where they in the Mad Magazine parody of Star Wars that first came out, they had a joke from R2-D2 where he says, "Oh great, I'm stuck here with an F-word robot," and and they changed it for a more recent reprint. They changed it to, "I'm stuck here with a gay robot," and it's like, well, it's still the same joke. Like, you just took out the slur, but it's still the same. You haven't changed what the joke is.
But it's not wrong. I mean, C-3PO is totally a gay robot.
He's one of those characters who I've always loved C-3PO, and I think that was one where, like, not until I was older was I like, oh, I see this kind of stereotype that he could be. But I was always just like, yeah, I love that he's always complaining. I love that he's very specific about what he wants or doesn't want. He's fussy.
Yeah. He is totally he's the Franklin Pangborn of the Star Wars universe. I think.
I love Franklin Pangborn.
When in the 90s there was a webzine called Blair. Named, of course, for the character from The Facts of Life. Mm-hmm. And they had an article called Lamar Luttrell is the Total God of You. And it was a celebration of the Lamar Luttrell character from Revenge of the Nerds, whom you may recall, like, when they have the field day with the other frats, like the physicists and the nerds design a javelin that can be thrown with his limp-wristed style that makes it go further. But again, Lamar Luttrell is fully himself, and he is one of the nerds, so he is one of our heroes. He is one of the put-upon characters. The other nerds accept him. So any blowback that he receives from straight people, in every sense of that word in this movie, just makes him part of our underdog heroes. So as much as there are elements of that character that you could point to as being kind of silly and stereotypical, he again gets to win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So is that how, when you're looking at, would you say that's the way to look at kind of like judging the, for lack of a better word, like offensiveness or inoffensiveness of the characters, is also kind of like, how does the character treated within the narrative in terms of like, are we on their side, and not just judging it based on are they enacting stereotypes that are, that we recognize are can be used in offensive ways.
Yeah, I think so, because I think the narrative has a voice about what we're meant to think about these characters and how we're meant to understand whether they are good or bad, or heroic or villainous or whatever it is. There's a terrible movie from the late 60s called The Gay Deceivers, and it's about these two dudes who pretend to be a gay couple so that they can avoid getting drafted and sent to Vietnam.
Oh, so it's like Three's Company, the movie. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. And so to maintain the illusion of it, they move in together in this apartment complex in West Hollywood that is run by a guy named Malcolm DeJohn. And the actor playing him is the great Michael Greer. You might know him from Messiah of Evil or Fortune in Men's Eyes. And he basically rewrote the character and turns him, what could have very easily just been a sort of swishy stereotype joke, into this like fabulous presence who is nobody's fool and is large and in charge. And he makes that movie worth watching because he is so in charge of the situation and such a fun character and such a character who is in control of his domain. That, yeah, even though the movie itself is patently offensive on numerous occasions, and all the stuff with the straight lead characters is just like, they say some shit you wouldn't believe, but you're waiting for Malcolm DeJohn to come back on screen and just be fabulous and put the whole thing in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that even when it's a positive description in like, this is a hero way, sometimes the stuff that we grew up with, I remember like, part of me is like, it's really to my parent and my brother's credit bringing me up that even as like a straight male living in cornfields in the Midwest, I was able to look at Mannequin and be like, this Hollywood character is a bit much. It's kind of insulting, I think, I think it's playing into some stereotypes here.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think a lot of it has to do with who's telling this story. Like, did a queer person write it or direct it? Is there a queer actor playing the role? Is the character, allowed to have a love life or a sex life, or are they just there to be the shoulder to cry on, or the helper, the magical homo, if you will, of the straight, protagonist? I always talk about how, Hallmark movies have the black friend on phone, which is, the woman, the friend that the white heroine will talk to throughout the movie to tell her what's going on with her relationship. And the supportive black friend does a lot of nodding on the phone. And
or it's kind of like so many horror movies have the person of color who has a closer connection to the supernatural and can tell the white hero what's going on with the thing that's haunting them or cursing them. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like Ghost?
Is it the horror of Party Beach that has the maid who keeps saying, "It's the voodoo, I tells ya"?
Yes. Although the funniest moment, she's also the smartest character in that movie, because there's the part where he goes, he's looking for sodium to destroy these monsters. And he goes, I called a couple places and I can't find it. And she goes, you call every place. She yells at him, call all of them.
Huh. Hey, I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, so you have I think there are a lot of times where the gay character is there to give the heroine a makeover, or whatever, to just sort of be in service of, but not have any actual inner life of their own. So, I mean, yeah, I think at least with Hollywood, in the first or second movie, I think he's got an implied boyfriend, right? It's been so long since I've seen either of them, I don't remember. But
you watch Mannequin all the time, Alonzo?
I know, it's one of my many failings.
What do you do during Mannequin's Giving? What are you watching? That reminds. So I think one of the earlier ones where I think I might have been more fully aware is the Harvey Fierstein character in Mrs. Doubtfire. When it's like he is there to give Robin Williams a makeover to be a woman, but also he does have a husband, or at least a partner, a long-term partner who's living with him. You do get a sense that he has a life outside of appearing in the scene.
Yeah, that couple is referred to as Uncle Jim and Aunt Jack or something, whatever the characters are. Yeah. It is very clearly stated they're a couple, and for a kids movie in the 90s, a huge leap forward, like the fact that these two people, they're not just roommates or not just pals, they are referred to as aunt and uncle, even if that's a joke, that at least is a joke that says they're a couple. This is how you know them in our family. So yeah, that in a tiny way is actually a big step forward.
It's such a weird thing where there's because sexuality, as with race, is such a messy thing in terms of like people's understanding or acceptance of things that are different from them. There's so many movies like that where it's like, this is a little bit more progressive than you would think, but it's also kind of regressive in this other way. Like those characters are also like makeup and mask experts who are there to like put him through a makeup montage basically. And you see that it's hard to find that clear cut of like, oh well, this is a good version of it, this is a bad version of it, because you're also living within the stereotypical assumptions of the world that the movie is existing in and reflecting and stuff like that. And but you're right, it's a big thing in that movie that it's like, oh yeah, they're members of our family. We have no question about their relationship. Like we love them, and this is how they love, and that's it. It's just for taken for granted.
And I think the fact that these guys are like working with latex and stuff, it's not just like, oh, I'm going to give you a smoky eye.
Exactly.
They're artists.
They don't work at it's not, oh yeah, my swishy brother-in-law who works at a salon. It's like, oh, these are professional makeup artists. Yeah, they make masks.
If one of the looks they had given Robin Williams was like, the T-1000 with like one robot eye sticking out, that would
I don't think you're going to get this job as a nanny.
Now I wish that was it. That instead of like different types of women in that montage, she was like different
that would have really
monsters.
butched them up. We can do everything.
He keeps terrifying the kids as he comes in and tries to be.
Yeah, I don't think we want to hire the Gill Man as our nanny.
This is kind of off to the side.
What a great movie that would be if it's like, it's not just that he's pretending to be a nanny, but he's pretending to be a monster nanny, and it's like, yeah, we wanted to hire a monster.
And it's called Monster Nanny.
Yeah.
$7,000.
Would be obvious,
make that
right? A mummy's obvious.
Yeah, dude, mummy's too easy. Yeah.
This is kind of off to the side of like the current part of what we're talking about, but I was thinking about like how growing up in rural Illinois at a time when like, any gay people around me would have been closeted, mostly. What it did to my ability to pick up on any sort of subtext in anything, which is to say, like, I didn't have it as a child, and I had to. But I just remember watching, Fried Green Tomatoes and being like, I think these women are more than just friends. And it's based on an expressly lesbian novel, but in the movie they took out any sort of
that's an infuriating adaptation.
No,
they really pulled back on it.
Dan, you had the same. I was very mad.
You had the same experience.
Let them be in love.
Yeah, but Dan, you had the same experience when you watched Desert Hearts as a kid, right? Like they were like, I think these women might be. Hold on,
they're naked together in bed.
And then when you watched Bound, and you were like, I think these women might be. Hold on. You're like, female friendships, they're just so much more comfortable with each other.
But and again, I think
pillow fighting.
That's with the early '90s. There was such a terror of that stuff because Fanny Flagg is a lesbian. Like she was involved with Rita Mae Brown for years, and the book is pretty clear about that relationship. And I think if you'd made that movie 10 years later,
the original title is Fried Green Lesbians. Yeah,
exactly. Yes.
But if you made
it cafe,
horrifying.
Do you think if they made it today, do you think they would just not?
I think they would be very straightforward about it now.
I do remember this is a little bit later, and this speaks more to me confronting my own bullshit. But I remember, I think it was somewhere in college when "But I'm a Cheerleader" came out. I feel like that was not only was it very campy, but it was also like such an overt. Like a depiction of a lesbian coming of understanding and lesbian romance. And I feel like at the time it felt very confrontational to me because I feel like it was very much a moment of college Stuart who was already insecure being like, but wait, I'm not necessary anymore. It was something
Where's
that it
the
took,
me in all
yeah,
this?
I had to unpack at the time, and obviously have come to understand.
I've been led to believe I'm at the center of human civilization. What's going on?
But I mean, that does come from the fact that, similar to Dan, I came from a fairly Midwestern, closeted universe.
I think I've told this story before, but I just think he deserves his plaudits whenever I can give it to him. I remember very clearly when I was young, my brother John saying to me, for some reason, like, I don't know what the context was. It was like, you're going to grow up, you're going to fall in love with a woman, or you might fall in love with a man. You might be gay, and that's okay too. And I'll love you no matter what. And I'm like, looking back on that, to be given that so young, I'm so appreciative that he did that, because I feel like it really did mean that I'm like, oh yeah, sure, that's fine. I grew up feeling.
But now looking back, you should have said it doesn't have to be a binary.
Yeah. No, he's canceled.
How woke is
He
this
wasn't.
Yeah,
podcast,
it's canceled. Yeah, exactly.
He didn't address every possible situation.
You could find yourself in a polycule, to Stuart's point, yeah, there are movies that come along that really, shake it up, and I think Desert Heart certainly was one of those movies. For me, I remember going with my best friend in college, Kurt Holman, to see both My Beautiful Laundrette and Prick Up Your Ears, both of which have these, are like My Beautiful Laundrette has that amazing scene where they're out in the street and Daniel Day-Lewis secretly licks the guy's neck, and Prick Up Your Ears, they're like cottaging, they're like going to public men's rooms and picking up dudes and stuff. And both of those movies, I just remember sitting there being like, stone face, no reaction. Do not.
Don't show the world. Don't show the world what this means to me. Yeah.
Do not gasp. Nothing. Just keep it on lockdown. And obviously, Kurt was one of the first people I came out to, and he was great about it. But I wasn't ready to go there yet. But these movies were showing me something that I hadn't seen before, and this was not The Fan. This was like, even though things don't work out well for Joe Wharton at the end of Prick Up Your Ears, nonetheless, it's not directly tied to him having sex with people. So. So I think it's great when you see that movie that isn't like a big Hollywood production that suddenly is like, oh, wait a minute, this is also a thing. Although now, I guess for some people it could be a Hollywood production. You could see Love, Simon or something, and it would, change your perspective on what this stuff even means,
Well, it's the value of storytelling and many different people telling stories, right? I think it gets boiled down to the idea of representation, but that's like a very simple, basic way to look at it. But the idea of it's not just the thrill of going and seeing something that you haven't seen before that means something to you particularly on screen, but seeing something that is outside of the realm of what you understood was possible in any way. Like that's the magic of stories and movies and things like that.
It's the Ebert line that everybody always likes to quote: the movies are a machine that creates empathy. Yeah,
I have an issue with that quote. But still, because I think movies can also be used to create hatred.
The quote is,
of course, yes.
It is a machine that creates only empathy.
Yeah,
I think that's
Leni Riefenstahl.
No, but I think that's off. But I think that's often how the quote is used. The same way that there's a. The same way that
they can creatively.
They can create. Well, the same way that people talk about and this is totally off topic, so I apologize. When they're like, comedy is only funny when it punches up. Well, that's not true. There is the part of the problem with comedy is that it can be funny when it punches down. So you've got to be a discerning audience, But
true.
But I
do think that seeing characters that are not you in a movie, that's where the empathy part comes in. And so, yeah, I think for a lot of people, their awareness that A, queer people exist, and B, queer people have a right to exist and, are not a direct threat to them and just want to live their own lives and, fall in love in their own way. I think for a lot of people, movies provide the way for them to get there. But to Elliot's point, I think also a lot of homophobia was probably engendered by what people saw in movies in the late 60s, 70s and beyond, because we were invisible pretty much during the Hays Code
you look
period.
at you look at the movie version of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, where you're what's this guy's problem? I don't
Exactly.
understand.
What's
he's
Rick
mad.
upset
He's
about?
mad. His best friend died. That's pretty sad. But I don't know why he's impotent now. And it's like, oh, it's because he was in love with him. Oh, I understand. Now.
Yes.
Well, and-
Yeah, or like Crossfire, which was a book about a gay bashing that becomes a movie about anti-Semitism. Okay, sure,
They were like, we can admit that Jews exist now.
It's a bold new step for American cinema.
And like you're saying, in those movies in the 60s and 70s where being queer is synonymous with being psychotic, essentially, in some way, or sadistic in some way,
or pathetic, that's
pathetic,
also that was also an option.
Like there's like at least for me, I feel like a lot of what I saw in movies was a certain seediness, a certain danger.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was like the femininity or like anything that others something, so that it's like, stay away, person. And
they were talking about with queer men in particular, because you would have similar, not as often, but you'd see in movies queer women who were they're it's the same problem because they're super butch, they're super masculine, super tough,
super butch, or they're like scheming to try and take women away from men.
Super Butch also sounds like a great, like, sort of zine comic.
Yeah,
that would-
Super Butch is like an underground comics. You'd buy it in a head shop, an underground comics book. Yeah, where it's-
her 4-issue team up with Hothead Paisan is a little collectible.
But it's interesting. I mean, it shows you how like a movie reflects the assumptions or the stereotype society, but then it also perpetuates them at the same time. And there's a lot of people who I certainly like. I remember seeing the first time I saw Blackula, and there's like there's Blackula's coffin is discovered by these antique dealers who are very much like stereotypes of swishy gay men of in the 70s, and it's one of these things where it's like, oh, so like these characters are like, they don't, of course they have no, the plot does not need them to have much of an interior life. They're just there to like bring Blackula back to life, basically.
Be bitten.
Yeah, to be bitten. But it's like trying to parse when I saw it, like, what is the reaction they intended the audience to have to these characters? Because were they supposed to be comic relief characters, or was it supposed to be some other aspect of like, oh, this is a horror movie, so there's like these kind of other kind of deviant type people? It's like, it was a very strange thing to me.
They're
It was also
deserving of their fate.
yes, or something like that. But the characters were. It was a. And I like, it became like a real. I had a lot of trouble enjoying the rest of Blackula because I kept thinking about, I kept trying to.
And otherwise, unproblematic.
Otherwise, impeccable movie.
Such a funny statement.
Yeah, I mean, because like you go back to silent cinema and you see examples of like, oh God, I forget the movie now, but there's some movies like set in the West or whatever, and one character. Somebody sees like Charlie Chaplin kissing a woman in drag and thinks that Charlie has just kissed a man. Mm-hmm. And so this guy immediately starts like flouncing about in this very specific way. And it's like, oh, this was coded in the 1920s.
Yeah.
People already knew what these arm movements and little, hip swishes and whatever tiptoe walking meant, And so, yeah, I think it's an easy laugh for audiences who assume, well, nobody in this room is that. Mm-hmm. So let's all find that hilarious, But yeah, I think Stuart's right. There's also that what I think Andrew Sarris once referred to as the Twilight demimonde, the sort of, the seedy underbelly of the big city where, the gays and the heroin addicts all gather,
And they're always looking for victims. Yeah, they're always always looking to corrupt somebody into a world of into a dangerous world of antiquing and listening to Judy Garland albums or whatever else, whatever other stereotypical things they're doing. Because it's that weird flip thing of the stereotype is either pitiful and weak or incredibly sinister and dangerous, but they exist in together, and because they exist as an opposition to what I guess is supposed to be like, for men especially, like the proper role or proper whatever,
Well, and again, we see this today in like the, ask a hard right conservative and they will tell you that, immigrants to this country are both lazy welfare mooches and they're taking all your jobs.
Yeah.
So you somehow manage to do both those things at the same time because they're all bad.
It's the similar thing. It's the similar thing with anti-Semitism has always been that way, where Jews are both kind of subhuman vermin, but they're also so incredibly brilliant that they manage to control the entire world and take over everything, despite being like weak and having none of the strengths of of the Gentile human beings. It really goes to show you that there's not really much rational thought in bigotry. It's never
think
based
it through enough.
No, it's never based on a really straightforward, consistent philosophy. There's a
it is. We hate you.
That part is consistent.
I don't
that's the
listen
through
consistently. I don't like you. Yeah.
Ready, go.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
We got this.
With Mark and Hal?
Oh, you knew this one.
You can't put that out as an ad.
We just did. New episodes every week on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Now it's Hewn in Rock.
Hewn in rock?
Yeah,
How do you hew something in rock?
with a chisel.
There's only one Hugh in rock, and it's Huey Lewis.
And the news is We Got This with Mark and Hal is available every week on MaximumFun.org.
I walked right into that.
Wonderful is a podcast where we talk about things we like. That's hard to sell in a promo like this, so we've enlisted the help of piano rock superstar Billy Joel to tell you about some of the topics we've covered. Take it away, real Billy Joel.
Diddy Rock, Spin on Lakeside, Worcestershire, Circle Time, Sega, Dreamcast, Caesar Salad, Tower of Hanoi. Keep me up, 8 time capsules, Wayne's World, Cheese Pulls, Wallace Stevens, Donkey Kong, Fun Size Almond Joy. They didn't start the podcast. Except that's not true, they did in 22. They didn't start the podcast. No, they actually did. That was in fact a fib.
Listen to Wonderful every Wednesday on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, real Billy Joel.
No problem, Griffin.
Hey, it's me, Dan McCoy, one of your most hair-rich Flophouse hosts, to tell you about Hims, a product about hair loss. Sometimes you go with the pitch man you have, and I know you're busy. You got places to be. You can't just be sitting around waiting for hair services, hair treatments, hair to be delivered to you. However you get hair these days. I don't know. Hair loss treatment. You don't have time for that. Hims makes expert care accessible on your schedule, so you can skip the line and focus on feeling like yourself again. Like a Samson with long flowing locks. And Hims offers convenient access to a range of prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that work, including chews, oral medication, serums, and sprays. Pick the one right for you. Doctor trusted ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil can stop further hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. No hidden fees, no surprise costs, just real personalized care on your schedule. So, for simple online access to personalized and affordable hair for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/flop. That's hims.com/flop for your free online visit. hims.com/flop. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. And also, we're sponsored in part by Squarespace, our old faithful, our old standby. Thank you, Squarespace. Squarespace is where you go when you need to offer services and get paid online, all in one place. You can get paid on time, and getting paid on time, ooh, that's the best way to get paid, with professional on-brand invoices and online payments. Plus, you can streamline your workflow with built-in appointment scheduling and email marketing tools. And if you're designing a website, Squarespace got you covered. They got a complete library of professionally designed and award-winning website templates with options for every use and category. You don't need to know HTML because they've got intuitive drag-and-drop editing, beautiful styling options, unrivaled visual design effects. No experience required. So, if this interests you, my friend, head to squarespace.com/flop for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use offer code FLOP to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
So I feel like it was in the not to shift too much, but in the 90s, I feel like there was also a shift where we did see, you had mentioned before, but that it felt like there was an increased representation of gay characters. But on some level, it felt like these characters were often presented where their chief struggle is against the repercussions of them being gay. So by having sex with a person of the same gender, they're going to die or something.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the 90s version of the tragic mulatto. Like their lot in life is to suffer and eventually pay for the sins of humanity. Yeah.
Yeah, the 90s, there's a lot going on. Because first you've got, on the one hand, you have like the new queer cinema, like in 90, Poison and Paris is Burning both win the jury prizes at Sundance,
right.
And suddenly you've got like Greg Araki and Gus Van Sant and Rose Trochet and, Cheryl Dunier and all these filmmakers
John
who
Waters.
are, John Waters. He is our eminence grise.
It's so funny. John Waters is like, I mean, he's the son, like, I think about this all the time that like you watch his older movies and they're genuinely filthy. Like they're genuinely like really outraged.
Yeah, they earn the word subversive in a way a lot of movies don't.
And just by lasting, he has become such a like mainstream beloved figure in a way that like it reminds me so much. I mean, this is the negative way to put it, but the line in Chinatown when they're talking about when John Huston has the line about like that rich people are like ugly buildings and prostitutes. If they last long enough, they become respectable.
Well, I think Mick Jagger said, in America they try to ban you and then they put you in a museum.
Yeah.
And both of those things have literally happened to John Waters. So,
you're saying so you had this. In the 90s, you had this like outburst of
you have this indie boom, of low budget queer films, and then kind of this sort of like crossover into commercial and even mainstream movies where suddenly they're like, oh, there's money to be had here because we were such a starved audience at that point. We would run out to see whatever it was.
With let's face it, disposable income because you're not wasting them on children most of the time like I am.
Yeah, they're all dinks, right?
Well, I mean, later, not so much. But yes, at that time, sure, let's say yes. So then you start getting movies like In and Out or even like a Jeffrey, where like you get like big names are attached and you're getting released into like, big city art houses and maybe even some suburban multiplexes.
Philadelphia, is that in there?
Yeah, that's right in there, but that falls more in the category of like the sort of, that's almost like a movie Stanley Kramer could have
that's
made,
a message picture.
Exactly, about a social issues, but an important one, and I think for a lot of people, their first time seeing a queer character who was the hero and who was played by Tom frickin' Hanks, and they get to follow Denzel's journey of going from like homophobic and AIDS phobic and, not wanting to deal with this stuff to completely accepting and loving this other, character and wanting to save him and wanting to, help him seek justice. But yeah, I think also like there is that thing of the 90s. There's that residual, AIDS panic, certainly. I think it manifests itself probably most vividly in what we call the Michael Douglas sexual panic trilogy. Fatal Attraction, Basic Instinct, and Disclosure, which are completely heterosexual movies, but they're all about AIDS, really, because they're about like, married dudes, you stray, and it's gonna blow up in your face, and you better watch it.
He is just so fuckable, is the thing.
That's true. When you're that hot, what are you gonna do?
He had so much sex it gave him cancer.
Yeah,
Dan, that's not how it happened. That's
what?
not.
I mean, it could be.
No, it can't.
Yeah, it can.
can.
That's actually.
It actually can. I mean,
I actually have a friend who just got through that same cancer from likely the same cause, from HPV.
Oh, right. Well, maybe that's how it happened with Michael Douglas then. I don't know. So, I mean, I just wouldn't conflate him as a real person with the characters he played in the movies. Like he wasn't. Yeah. It's not like those experiences in Fatal Attraction and basically things that actually happened to him.
What?
I thought those were documentaries. Glenn Close is alive?
Someone stop her.
But the bunny's okay, right?
Stuart, I got to talk to you after the show. Yeah.
That bunny is still alive today.
So yeah, you guys talk about like, 80s exploitation a lot, and it's clearly, I think, movies that meant a lot to you guys. And I just find that's such a fascinating period in terms of, it was sort of the last gasp of like, oh, you're just going to say faggot out loud. And we're all supposed to accept that, and so, yeah, it's not like, we can't still point to movies and be like, oh, I can't, this is problematic, or I question your, what you were thinking with this. But I think I'm going to say for the most part, we're no longer in those waters.
Yeah.
For the most part.
No, it is.
Yeah.
There are several reasons why being a fan of like 80s trash like really hurts my heart in certain ways.
I mean, I think anytime you're a fan of trash, trash is going to reflect, no matter how great certain aspects, trash is going to reflect often the worst of because it's going for the basest instincts, not the most basic instincts, but the basest instincts. And so it's going to reflect that stuff. But it's also that's the price you pay by loving culture is that you don't get to just. You want to find pleasure in the things from before, and the world has not always been what it is. It's not, people have not always been as understanding as they are. And so it's it's the same thing with, we talk about movies because it's a movie podcast, but it's the same thing with books or plays or, any depiction of reality is going to reflect the understandings of reality of the people who made it. And those understandings
and their limitations.
Exactly. And their limitations, which is not to excuse it, but it also means that you just got to be ready for it.
Context.
And this may be a little bit selfish, but there's something about watching trash cinema where you're put now as an older person who's maybe a little more enlightened. You're able to look back and be like, I can identify that as gross, and that signifies that I am a better person now, so I feel better.
You're like, I'm still watching this, and still watching this, but I can identify the parts that are gross.
I'm not that much better.
but it's also it's like when this came out, this is things that people felt comfortable saying out loud, and this was a bit that they were happy to commit to, and they didn't see any problem with it. When Criterion recently put out Risky Business, which is a movie that I was obsessed with in high school, Glenn Kenny did this great piece. It was like, thank God it holds up. There's nothing in this movie that is so glaringly 80s. There is a trans sex worker in that movie, and they are treated with respect in Risky Business. And it's just whew, because so much from the 80s. I mean, my God, the early John Hughes oeuvre, you're just like, oh, did we do that?
It's such a joy to find older stuff and assume it's going to not hold up, and then be like, oh, wow, this is a dumb one, but rewatching old episodes of Night Court, I'm like, wow, Dan Fielding was actually fairly progressive despite being a Lothario.
Yeah, well, look, as opposed to once the Gen Z started watching Friends during the pandemic, it was like,
or Starship Troopers.
Well, Starship Troopers is a movie that people don't get, and that's their problem.
It's so. I mean, I find it so funny when Starship Troopers came out that they were like, Paul Verhoeven doesn't realize he's made a pro-Nazi movie, and it's like, dude, I think he knows what he's doing.
I think a lot of people, and I'm going to make a national judgment here, maybe particularly in America, feel the need to hold themselves above whatever they're watching, which allows them to make assumptions that the blindingly obvious thing in front of them was done by mistake somehow. It's does he know he's wearing a Nazi uniform? Yeah, that's the signifier that is supposed to tell you how to feel about the movie.
It's I was saying about how they didn't invent sex after the 30s. You watch a movie like The Gang's All Here, and they have that whole dance number with those giant bananas, and you're and they're like,
they knew.
Did they realize these are phallic? Of course they did. They had penises then. They knew.
They'd been invented by that point. Look, I just started watching The Boys for the first time, and I'm gobsmacked that anybody watched the first season of this show and didn't immediately get what the show was about. I remember hearing like somewhere around like season 3, people are like, oh my God, the show's gone all woke. And I'm like, it's right there from the beginning. Like he is not the hero. Homelander is not the good guy.
Well, I think there's a lot of people who they don't know how to read a story. Like they don't know how to read what the story is trying to tell them. But also especially when something is like Starship Troopers or like The Boys, they're using they're recontextualizing something to make a point, that people just they don't know how to understand that new context yet. And so they just assume that it means the thing that they've always expected it to mean,
Right.
Like if you did a movie where this would never happen. But if like John Wayne had done, or I guess maybe he did. I guess if you look at The Searchers and you look at like John Wayne's character in that is a racist and he is shut out from society, not just because, he's too strong for this world, but because he cannot make the acceptances in his heart that he needs to in order to be a part of society. But you still, and it is such a strong statement about that John Wayne character, but a lot of people still watch it and they're like, John Wayne, what a hero.
Yeah,
he's the hero of the movie. Because I know John Wayne and he's in it. He must be the hero.
It's the Rorschach thing.
I mean, that's kind of, I think that's kind of what doesn't work for me about Unforgiven is that Clint Eastwood is such an icon at that point, and for him to play this character who is so messed up, I remember seeing it with an audience, and when he starts shooting everybody at the end, and you're supposed to think, oh no, this character is now lost to the dark side of his soul, and they're all like, yeah, get him.
They're like, do it, yeah.
Clint,
well, I think
maybe,
as much as I love Clint Eastwood's work, and I think he is, I loved Juror Number 2. I thought that was such a.
You and I differ, my friend.
No, I really liked it a
ditto.
lot. No, I really liked it a lot. But with Unforgiven, I think there is part of it.
Juror Number 3 will turn you guys around. The third
one.
one.
Oh yeah. I thought it really improved on Juror Number 1, which had potential, But I think in Unforgiven, I wonder if there's
He
a
got
part
released
of
for cause.
If there's a part of him where he's like, I want to say this, but I don't quite know how to say this, and he falls back into kind of the old patterns also. Like, I feel like Unforgiven, it hits its point when they shoot that guy who's sitting in an outhouse, and then everything after that is like, yeah, all right. Like, that's the moment of the movie that hit its point, so.
Well, and to bring this back to our topic, like when Cruising came out in 1980, a lot of queer people were mad about that movie while it was being made because we'd been absent from the screen, and now here's this movie about like these serial killers in the leather world,
and the same with Basic Instinct when that came out. I remember the protests.
Oh yeah,
then,
for
too,
sure.
Yeah,
but in both cases, I think those movies have evolved in a way that, like, for example, when Cruising was being made, a lot of people in the leather community were thrilled. They were like, "Oh, great, we're in a movie. Like, we are being shown as part of the queer community." Because so often, this is in the era when like leather guys and drag queens were often being discouraged from like being in the parade because they weren't sort of like heteronormative assimilationist enough. But yeah, as Cruising ages, I think people have a lot of different reads on it. I mean, you can just look at that movie as this kind of like anthropological study of a New York that no longer exists. That whole the meatpacking district where all those bars are, those are condos now. And the Brambles and that community was about to get hit so hard by AIDS that is this moment in history that is at least captured, and Basic Instinct, same thing. A lot of lesbians have since sort of embraced that movie as like, Sharon Stone is a badass in this movie. She's in charge. She is calling all the plays. She is befuddling and bewitching everybody else in the movie.
She's the smartest person in the movie by far.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, for a movie that at the time people were furious about because it was like yet another queer killer, she is such a cool customer and such a glamorous object and such a, people are coming to her on her own terms that audiences respond to that. And I'm fine with queer villains in a context where there's queer everything. And
well, I was going to ask if you thought that was the difference maybe, is that at a time when the only queer representation was as villains or victims,
I was going to ask about Silence of the Lambs, for instance.
Yeah, like that means something different than in a world where you have multiple types of queer characters, and so you can have a queer villain without it being like, this is the one version
this is speaking for everyone. Yeah, totally.
Exactly, yeah.
No, I think it makes a huge difference. And Silence of the Lambs, is still argued about in queer circles. I think everybody acknowledges it's a great movie. Obviously, it is. It's
no Juror Number 2, but yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, it'll do. But no, it is this extraordinary thriller. But it's like, how are we meant to read this trans serial killer essentially who we're given this, and I think it's the context of like, are we seeing all kinds of trans characters? Are we seeing all kinds of queer characters? Or is this it? You know?
Yeah. And partly because it's not only a great thriller, but it also is a presentation of like earthy American life, like steel town life. So you see like a lot of extras that look very regular and normal people. And then you have this one like seedy character. I've like it further complicates it for me at least.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot with that character that I think in a world where you're seeing a variety of characters, a variety of trans mask, trans femme representation in movies, then it just becomes part of, the tapestry. But at the time, there were so few, G's and L's, let alone T's in movies, and certainly that were being presented as heroic or even protagonists. I get why at the time that movie upset a lot of people. And, you hear conflicting reports about whether or not Jonathan Demme went on to make Philadelphia as a mea culpa or not, who even knows? But, it has been fascinating. We've been getting a lot of great trans voices in film criticism in the last few years. Like if you have not picked up Corpses, Fools, and Monsters by Willow Caitlin McClay and Caden Mark Gardner, that's a book that will actually tell you what's great about Glenn or Glenda.
Oh, wow.
Like they will take these sort of texts that have been discarded and be like, well, actually this has this to say about the
Glenn or
trans
Glenda
experience.
may be one of the most progressive movies ever made in a lot
For the
of ways.
50s, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's trying for something, and it's trying to make a plea for tolerance and understanding.
At the moment,
And a
at the
plea
end,
for
is not.
using Buffalo stock footage and things.
Yeah, I mean,
That too.
It's like that the character's left not with like a rejection, but instead with a like, well, let's figure out how to be together.
Let's share Angora sweaters.
Yeah, exactly.
The BJ and Harmony Colangelo wrote an entire book about sleepaway camp, which made trans people very angry at the time. But I think
why?
There's I don't know, what were they so upset about? No, but I think there's a way that these texts exist where even something that is considered at the time like negative or like people used to think, and to this day still think like The Boys in the Band is a terrible representation of like queer life, but it's there, and it's an attempt to at least tap into some real truths and an acknowledgement of our existence. I'll even say during the Hays Code years, you could pick apart Hitchcock, giving us like Mrs. Danvers and Rebecca, or
Bruno and Strangers on a Train, or
exactly, Robert Walker's character, or like or Norman Bates or whoever, as being these negative representations. But it's like, but at least we're there.
Yeah, I guess that's the question. Would you rather be invisible, or would you rather be acknowledged in a less than positive way?
Yeah, neither are great choices.
Yeah, they're both terrible choices.
And I think it's the fact that we've moved past those two choices that now allows us to look back at the negative ones and say like, well, at least they got this, or they included us in this, or they make this acknowledgement. Like, I think it's too easy to just dismiss something as terrible or reprehensible or, negative. But if you approach it in a different way, my God, I just read like a fascinating book about the history of the Children's Hour on screen from These Three, which was the sort of cleaned up version to the eventual movie of it. Like, yeah, I think that any text, even if it was reviled at the time, can later yield some kind of insight into the queer experience as it was, either being lived or at least being perceived and understood by straight people.
The people who, for better or worse, have been the main storytellers for quite some time.
Who keep taking the jobs.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. We should start to wrap up. But are there I was wondering if there are either, you mentioned just now, Corpses, Fools, and Monsters. But like, are there other books or are there recent movies or forgotten movies that you would recommend to people where you're like, this is worth watching, not just for historical purposes, but like this is one that you're really going to get something.
Oh,
special
sure,
out of.
yeah. Well, yeah, definitely Corpses, Fools, and Monsters, and the Sleepaway Camp book by the Colangelos. Also, Travell Anderson, a former Max Fun host, has a book called We See Each Other, about trans representation in film. That was very helpful to me as I was writing Hollywood Pride. Pointed out several folks that, artists that I didn't know about and characters on screen that I didn't know about. As far as recent movies, a queer movie of recent vintage, I think it's on Canopy, that I've been really trying to press onto people because I feel like it got generally overlooked in its release. It's an Italian movie called L'Immensità. It stars Penelope Cruz as the mother of a trans son, but it's Italy in the early 70s, and nobody understands what is going on with this quote unquote girl, and they don't understand his behavior. But the kid has this very rich fantasy life of his own, involving, what his future is going to be like, or how he can exist in the world as the boy that he understands himself to be. And so it's got these really big, fun, like kind of musical numbers that are fantasy sequences, but there's also this really cool thing where there's this encampment of people living in the woods across the street from their high-rise apartment, and he goes there and hangs out and just presents himself as a boy, and that's how they welcome him, and he gets to sort of live this separate existence where he just gets to be a boy and nobody asks him questions about it. So that's a film that I really love that I would love for more people to see. So yeah, go look for L'Immensità.
L'Immensità. So, well, Dan, do you have any other? I mean, you're kind of the expert on this stuff, though. So, Dan, do you have any other thoughts about queer representation in film, or what the experience of it?
I mean, I was going to talk about seeing Cruising for the first time last year, but I feel like the moment's passed, so we can just
okay. All right.
wrap things up.
I want to talk about my favorite movie of the year so far, Pillion.
Woo! Okay.
Well, maybe not my. It's up there. It's up there. Yeah.
Your favorite was The Mandalorian and Grogu. Yeah.
But as somebody who's not in that community, I found it to be really affecting, in part because of the way that it presents like kink and that the I guess BDSM or leather culture in such a plain format. And they don't seem to make a joke out of it. But I don't know. How do you feel about it, Alonzo?
I liked it a lot. I think it would be a really good double feature with Baby Girl, the recent Nicole Kidman movie, because I kind of feel like they're both sort of coming out movies for kinksters. Mm-hmm. They're about people who are able to sort of understand, this is what I want, and this is what I like, and this is what I respond to, and this is what I don't want, and so it's about people understanding themselves, declaring that to the world, and also setting the boundaries of what that is going to be for themselves. And they're tonally and stylistically different films, but I think they're both really effective at that.
And they're both the drama comes from them trying to understand where those boundaries are and figuring that out. They're not meant to be paragons of this lifestyle. This is simply people learning something.
Yeah,
which
they're figuring it out, and they're figuring out, how do I accommodate this into the life I already have, whether it's with the husband and children I have in my position as a CEO, or just
Tony B,
life with my parents, or how my day-to-day existence, how does this all fit in? How does this all fit together?
Yeah, you're saying it's a step forward from, in most older movies, it would be a joke about someone walks into the wrong room and there's someone just kind of swinging a short whip with a biker cap on, and that's the end, and you just know
that person, Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah. Oh,
I have not listened to your Exit to Eden episode yet, but I have to. I gotta get into that.
That is what's funny about that is that its portrayal of kink communities is the least of the problems in the movie.
Although, I mean,
jewel smuggling or whatever.
Gary Marshall spent a lot of time in dungeons doing research.
The funny thing about that movie is the problem is not that what it is showing is offensive. The problem is that what they're showing as kink is so tame that you're
so funny.
Why does anyone go to an island for this?
they're like, let's look at some. There's the showroom sequence where they're going through different kinky situations you can do it, and they're like, love in an elevator. Ooh. Or love with a
Living
stranger.
it up while I'm going down?
It's just like, oh, okay. Well, this is the most like 2% milk, 1% milk version.
I'm going to sit on you with my bare bottom.
I am not part of the BDSM community, but even I could tell that the 50 Shades movies were some bullshit. Yeah.
But I mean, the most real moment in any of the 50 Shades movies is the moment where Dakota Johnson is in the middle of getting dressed and they have an argument, and I was like, this feels real. This is the kind of thing that happens.
Human behavior.
Yes, human. Sometimes you have an argument in the middle of getting dressed, but there's nothing sexy about it.
Elliot, do you have a recommendation?
I should have prepared one considering I asked the question. I don't really. I'm going to think about one. That's going to be my homework assignment.
Okay.
It's to come up with.
Go think about what you've done.
I've been so deep. Yeah, exactly. I've been so deep in Czech comedies lately that I haven't been going outside of that world too much.
That's a 2-circle Venn diagram, I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
But what was Milos Forman? One of his first American movies was like
Taking Off. That one.
Taking Off. Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody queer in that. I haven't seen it.
I don't know that there is, but I mean, Taking Off is a great movie. At the very least, about people trying to understand other people. So those parents are looking for their daughter, and their daughter's in kind of like youth culture. But I don't remember there being anyone queer in it. But I'll watch it again. It's a good movie. And I'm sure that now that I think about it, the movies I've been watching, I'm sure probably have gay jokes in them that I just didn't notice because, I'm not sure.
I mean, the thing about like those early, like the late 60s, early 70s, like the code was gone. You could suddenly do characters like that. But since most of those movies were being made by like straight dudes, it was like, well, it's either going to be comic relief or a killer, But look at how progressive we are by having this, this homo inclusion,
What, we put you in the movie, you're the bad guy, or we laugh at you.
We acknowledge your existence. What more do you want?
What else could we do? Come on. Could I be the star of the movie? Of a movie? I'll have to think of something. I'll have to expand what I've been watching. Because it's like the listeners to the past few episodes of the show, they're like, let Elliot watch some other stuff. So you stop recommending just Czech comedies from the same director over and over again. This has been a really fun and very, I think, what an eye-opening conversation. I feel like we're all going to walk away with a great
really learned
understanding
something
of
today.
But
We've shared.
Alonso, it's always such a joy to have you on the show. We'll have to have you back again real soon. But thank you for
plug his book one last time.
Yeah.
Oh, please, yes. My book, Hollywood Pride, that I wrote for Running Press and Turner Classic Movies. It's available everywhere. It is a book, an ebook, and an audiobook. So look for them where you find those things. Ask your library to snag a copy if they haven't already. And it's got tons and tons of ideas of films that you might want to check out. But always a pleasure to be here, guys. I'm thrilled when you had me back, and this was a great chat.
Who reads the audiobook?
Me.
Oh.
The reason
I tried to get Morgan Freeman, and he wouldn't return my calls.
No, I would so much rather hear you read it, Alonso, than anybody else.
Oh, stop.
Yeah. But thank you so much, everybody, for listening. This has been the Flophouse Podcast, a mini episode. We'll be back next week with a movie episode, but it won't be as interesting. But it'll probably be dumber. It'll be dumber, probably.
Look, we can praise this episode without burying another.
I don't think we can. I don't know how to do that. It's the way I was raised. We are a member of the Max Fun Network. There are lots of great Max Fun podcasts. Maximum Film is a Max Fun podcast.
Yes, it is.
And where you can hear more of our friend Alonso. Our show is produced by Alex Smith. You may know him better as Howell Doughty. And if you don't know him as Howell Doughty, take a look, listen to his music, listen to his podcast. He's hilarious. He's a great guy. He does great work for us, and he does great work on his own. Otherwise, if you happened to find yourself in a situation where you could leave a positive review for us on the podcast listener of your choice, why not do so? Why not take advantage of that? 5 star. Why not be generous? Give us 5 stars.
Yeah.
If 6 is an option,
Thrill
give us
yourself.
6.
Why be stingy with stars?
Come on, we have such
They don't cost
you saving them up.
nothing.
You can't take them with
There's
you.
an infinite supply.
It's true. And
Look into
Dan,
the sky. It's filled with them. Just grab 5 of them and slap them on your
pluck one.
computer.
Yeah, be like the kid in that Italo Calvino story that Pixar made a short out of, and just pluck some stars out and bring them home with you. everyone, is there anything else I've forgotten, Dan? In
No,
our
you
normal
did it
closure?
great.
Okay. So thank you so much for listening. Again, we'll be back next week. And I guess I'll end with my normal catchphrase that I end every episode with. Keep flopping it up, fluppos.
Oh, man, classic. And I've been Stuart Wellington.
I've been Dan McCoy.
And we've been joined by
Alonzo Duralde.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported
Directly
by you.